What happens when a woman says she was coerced into freaky hotel nights, but the internet and the courtroom aren't buying it? Today, we break down the explosive testimony from a woman, Jane Doe, who claims she was pressured by Diddy to sleep with strangers or lose her $10,000 a month lifestyle. Let's get into it. Jane Doe. We all know who Jane Doe is. After last week, this is the quickest Jane Doe we've ever discovered. I mean, within minutes of this thing coming out that this person was testifying, which I'm sure y'all put it somewhere. I'm sure people have already figured it out. Hell, I'm not even going to court, so I don't really have to worry about it. They were cracking down on some YouTubers that had like academics and all those people who had let everybody know who Mia was. It's been going on for a couple weeks here. Okay, so Jane Doe is believed to be one of the alleged victims in the federal sex trafficking case against Diddy. She testified that she was essentially financially dependent on him. Her only other income is child support from another somebody that is a nemesis to Diddy, let's just say. And if you know, you know, because he's already responded on Instagram, as he does about all things Diddy related. She claims Diddy told her, if you don't do the freak offs, I won't pay your rent. Damn. But here's where it gets real messy. This wasn't a hidden affair. She was dating Diddy in the public while he was also dating Young Miami and knew he wasn't interested in monogamy. She even met him while he was dating her friend. His friend is interesting too, because she also testifies that the friend was allegedly married already or in a relationship and also dating Diddy. So once she kind of moved on to her now marriage, she left Diddy alone. So I guess this young lady thought the coast was clear to go after Diddy. You're starting to see a pattern here. You're starting to see what was the real motivation of this relationship, and was it on above board in the beginning? This is the defense's best case scenario, is getting people like this to show that they had financial motivations in most of these cases. According to her testimony, Diddy flew her out to Turks and Caicos for her birthday. He paid her $10,000 a month to support her lifestyle and pressured her to have S with hired male escorts while he watched. Ricky ass boy. Allegedly told her to lick their, sometimes without protection. Afterwards, he would sleep with her on the same sheets that they finished on. Ugh. Disgusting. Instead of freak-offs, she called them hotel nights. I think Cassie also mentioned hotel nights because I think most of these things originally took place in a hotel, right? You don't have to mess up the sheets and everything. But here's the kicker. When she refused to participate, Diddy allegedly said, fine, we'll break up, but I'll stop paying your rent in 3 months. Cold-blooded. That's the supposed coercion the government is using, right? But is this really trafficking? You know, some would say this testimony makes a mockery of real survivors. Why? Because the woman, actually, Jane Doe, never left. She stayed with Diddy up until the day he was arrested. She had plenty of options. She chose to rent a house with the allowance that Diddy was giving her of $10K. Used the whole amount. And I guess she assumed she would use the rest of the amount that she was getting from her baby's father, her famous baby's father, for everyday expenses, right? All this to be a paid side piece, if you will, and not to get a job. See, the prosecution, the government is going to have a problem now proving coercion, you know, because her motivation is purely monetary for the most part. She comes in it a little different than Cassie with 10 years of a relationship here. So when Brian Steele or Westmoreland gets a hold of her tomorrow, it's going to be a field day, because they're going to be asking her all these questions. They're going to be like, well, okay, why would you do that? They're going to tear her ass up. I was watching some coverage earlier, and, you know, she is probably testifying to avoid being considered a co-conspirator, right? To actually stop from getting charges. Because like I said, she was there up until the day Diddy was raided. So this is a current relationship. This doesn't have to go back a few years like most of the other stuff in this case. But if Jane Doe was participating in these acts willfully in exchange for rent, it may weaken the prosecution's trafficking charge and make it look like the feds are grasping. The feds have looked like they were just kind of throwing the kitchen sink in some ways. But as much as they've brought these witnesses up to testify, I don't think they've really nailed what they need to nail. A lot of people are still going down the list and saying they only need 2 to enact a RICO charge. That may well be. But all of these things have not been factually proven. A lot of these things, they kind of link up. You get 2 witnesses that kind of have a story that's similar, and we're going on that as this is a fact. Well, what I'm saying is when the defense gets their chance and their witnesses, I think it's going to be a little different in how the jury sees this. Is a jury going to unanimously convict Diddy to send him to jail for life? And that is potentially overcharging, you know? And I think that's the problem a lot of people are having here. This is the thing, like I have to say this every video, but nobody is defending Diddy. Diddy has done some dirtbag, heinous, and awful things throughout his time in the industry and over the past 30 some years. But when you look at this case in particular, and when you look at what he's charged with, you can't just say that this guy has got to go to jail for this. In fact, I don't think he should be in jail now. Like, I think it was kind of strange that they rushed to put him in jail, like he was a flight risk and that he would never show up for trial. I think Diddy was confident going into this trial. Otherwise, he wouldn't have let it go to trial. He would have took the plea deal, which I reported as 5 years that they offered him. It might actually be closer to 15. But anyway, this whole case is just bad optics, you know. But with witnesses like this young lady, there's a lot of space for reasonable doubt. That's what Diddy is hoping for. Did Diddy threaten to release the tapes of Jane Doe participating in a freak off to her baby daddy, his well-known enemy on Instagram? That would shift this from bad choices to coercion. It's also exactly what Cassie claimed he did to her. It's showing a pattern, and that's what the prosecution wants to do in a perfect world. But you know, this case isn't just about what happened behind closed doors. It's about power. It's about how much money they can get from them. It's about the consent, obviously, and whether the government can prove that Diddy manipulated all these people and trafficked all these people in a racketeering and criminal enterprise. So every day there's something surprising that happens in this case. Every day there's something new. You know, you got the woman from yesterday who said she was dangled off of the balcony by Diddy. So this is 2 days of sort of questionable witnesses, but because a lot of people said she wasn't believable, and in fact they came back today and actually the defense kind of caught her in a couple big lies. But she actually also had a lawsuit against Diddy, which the lawyer kind of didn't do her any favors by kind of throwing in a bunch of other stuff that maybe didn't happen. And so now she's having to testify about that stuff, and it's tripping her up. It's making it seem like she's a liar. So anyway, this case is always never a dull moment in this case, inside or outside the courtroom. If you've seen any of the outside antics, it's almost as entertaining as what's happening in the courtroom. But all this and Diddy's fate, whether he will go to jail for life, remains to be seen. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments. This is Faucette Media.